Danielle with the Motivity podcast. I'm your host, and today I have a very cool co-host here from Cohesity, a good friend of mine, which I'll introduce in a second. But I just want to remind everyone what we're trying to achieve on this podcast is simplifying technical chat. So when we meet with, if customers meet with manufacturers or customers meet with any kind of person representing a brand, right? That first meeting is super awkward. And we're trying to break down that conversation. So if you go into a meeting, you're a little bit more prepared. You understand the technology a little bit more. And, what is it like to buy that technology, deploy that technology, especially from an operation standpoint. But again, we have Ray on for Cohesity, and we're super excited because Ray and I have a long-standing friendship. We've worked together many companies, and we cross paths a full time. So first of all, Ray, introduce yourself, say hello. Thanks for being on the show today.
Yeah, Danielle, thank you for having me join today. Do appreciate it. And congratulations and kudos to you for starting this platform. It's very, very cool.
Thank
But yeah,
you so much.
My name is Ray Zawissa. I work for Cohesity, Senior Account Executive here in the tri-state area, covering the New Jersey, Philadelphia, Lehigh Valley, out to Harrisburg patch. Large enterprise with
Large
Cohesity. So
enterprises.
yeah.
Okay. Now, just randomly, does Cohesity go by employee count? Does it go by profitability? Does it go how does it fall to you that account based on that vertical? Or sorry, based on that location? How does it fall to you, and how would that be your account? How does Cohesity look at that?
Yeah, good question, because it's different for everyone, right?
We
So
know
it's
that. Yep.
Yeah, so we are revenue based. So
Revenue.
we have 100 million to a billion, billion to 10, 10 plus, and then under 100 million. So I'm in that large enterprise, which is 1 billion to 10.
Right. If you had to narrow down what is your job, and we know it is to sell Cohesity, but are these new accounts? Are these accounts that are greenfield? Are you knocking down doors? What are you how are you getting in, or what is what are you tasked to do?
Yeah, it's all the above, right? So I
Okay.
am here to support my current customer patch, whether it's, 10 to 15 buying customers, happy buying customers, and just getting new customers the value of Cohesity as we go through the process with them.
Who do you work with in the marketplace? What is your go-to-market strategy, and how are you getting in front of clients?
Yeah, so for Cohesity, the go-to-market strategy is just helping drive the value of Cohesity, right? We're in the data protection space, and we live there all day. We do a little more than just data protection, which I'll get into in a little bit. But our security posture in that data protection space is key. Just getting that messaging in front of our customers and prospects is crucial. And working with local VARs in the tri-state area, which we have a strong channel relationship and strong channel sellers and technical folks, which is amazing. But also from technology partner wise, we also work with companies like Cisco, where we're in your GLP, HPE, Pure. AWS is a pretty strong cloud partner of ours, along with being able to live in AWS, Oracle Cloud, or Microsoft and Google.
So, right, is it, and I'm just asking this because I don't know, is it unusual or is it usual that, a customer would bring to the table a Cohesity, a cloud provider like AWS, Microsoft, Google, and then a manufacturer to kind of look at the overall data protection and what you're putting on-prem versus cloud? Is that a strategy you've seen from clients where they'll talk to all three or bring you all to the table to strategize on an idea?
Well, it's a lot of the cloud providers are out there, and a lot of customers, whether their cloud strategy is very, in the beginning stages, the middle stages, or the end stages, we can live anywhere in that process. But we're just helping, being Cohesive, being a software defined, company. Our
Yeah.
licensing, the way we protect, can live anywhere, whether it's on-prem, at the edge, in the cloud. Our ability to dedupe and compress that data and store it very securely is going to be crucial for that. And we help guide that discussion, whether it's cloud or on-prem or a hybrid method, which is also key for some folks moving forward.
Yeah. So if you're going to give advice to a client, and I think I see where you're going with this. does it make sense the client actually is getting advice from you on a cloud strategy and where to put the data or where to back up the data? Like, are you kind of that middle piece that could actually help them and advise them if they're wondering what to do? Like, it sounds like you'd actually give a lot of good insight into that, whether to keep it
Yeah.
on-prem or move it, move that data to the cloud.
Yeah, it's all about workloads, their policies, and where it wants to live and how fast do they want to kind of restore it from, right? Because here's the
Right.
thing, the backup world, 5, 6 years ago was a lot different than what it is today. Because 5, 6 years ago, you're doing your nightly backups, your weeklies, making sure that your fulls are getting, um, you're meeting your deadlines and your SLAs. And then, 5, 6 years ago, ransomware starts to attack, and the backup piece is becoming a lot more pertinent in the environment because, ransomware, you're attacking your data, just restore from your latest greatest backup, and now it's becoming more important and crucial. And what Cohesity does is we're
Because that
helping
data is the jewels that you can't let them
the
get to the data. So, and I've talked to a ton of companies that give advice about that data, but to Ray's point, you also have to access the data. And if you need the data, how do you get the data back? And then how do you store it? I think are two key pieces.
Yeah, yeah. So some of the things that we do is we're providing immutability, which is basically, fancy way of like once data is written to our platform, you can't change it, right? Because once ransomware gets in, that's what they're trying to do. They're trying to hold it and delete it and things like that. So our platform already has an immutability built into it, and our ability to restore. God forbid, knock on wood, anything does happen. How fast are you able to restore your environment if you are attacked, whether it's a few servers or your entire environment, right? I,
What do
I
you
always
feel?
say
Yeah,
backup is only as good as your restore. That's what it is, really.
that is true, because if you can't get it back up and it can't go fast and it can't happen, that's obviously pivotal and could be huge. It could affect the company in so many ways, right? You would have to, you'd have to go to paper, or how do you email, or how do you connect? How do you do anything, right? I mean, when we talk about ransomware, and I think I say we lightly talk about the getting to the data, but the data runs so much stuff. It needs information and data to run all these programs. So, we kind of maybe talk about it on a first level, but it really is a spider web effect that the data runs and feeds so many platforms or so many SaaS products that it needs that data to do other function. And as we're talking through, it is reliable on the data. So, it is a major problem, and giving advice to where you put data, where you store it. It sounds like you're an expert, or you've been in this field quite a while.
Yeah, yeah.
So what?
I mean, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, go. I was going to go through some best practices, like as you think about providers, or as you think about what to do with that data. What are some of the questions that clients can ask, or what are some of the best practices you've seen in the marketplace?
I mean, best practices in general, like when the backup world, like I said, 5, 6 years ago was different, right? Cohesity is a hyper-converged, software-defined
What?
company,
Yeah.
right?
Explain
So
hyperconverged, though.
yeah, so
Most listeners are not going to maybe know that terminology.
from a Cohesity perspective, let me just take a step back, right? Cohesity,
Yeah,
we were founded in 2013 by this guy Mohit Iran. Mohit co-founded Nutanix back in 2009.
and everyone knows
Nutanix
that
was
word.
Yes. Nutanix was the first hyper-converged platform to market, consolidating that SAN server and network into that single platform, right?
And it's scalable. So think about, like,
It's
you could scale based on the need, and that's a lot of the cloud. You're scaling based on requirements instead of just buying boxes and different boxes and saying, okay, you kind of say, here's the box. You're saying, no, buy exactly what you need, and you can scale differently and expand based on those separate modules.
correct. It's a true pay-as-you-grow model from a
Right.
on-prem hardware perspective.
Right.
So Mohit, and before he was actually at Nutanix, he actually was one of the lead engineers at Google File System back in the early 2000s
No
when
way. I
Google was
love
a
Google.
startup. Yeah, so he took those two file systems and those two experiences of Google and Nutanix and wanted to kind of really attack the bigger of the footprint in data, right? That
Right.
backup data, that NAS file data, the test dev, the analytics, all of that stuff. And that's when Cohesity came to play with that. So hyperconverged, true pay as you grow model. That's what kind of Cohesity is really all about, right? True pay as you grow, very secure posture in that protecting your crown jewels and also supporting your NAS and file workloads, which we do very well also.
So talk a little bit about NAS, right? And what is that? And then go into the file workloads, file workloads.
Yeah, so when you think about NAS, it's that unstructured data that that doesn't change a lot, whether it's a PAX environment or user shares, things like that, which we can do. Like we support that, and again, from a platform perspective, if you want to bring that to the cloud or leverage that anyway, we can do that. Most of the time, what we're doing is we're protecting that on-prem and supporting that in our as our hyperconverged platform. And again, some folks they like to use our white box, which we can support very well. Some folks like to use Cisco UCS, which we can live on and support very well, and other and HPE too. Sorry, Danielle.
That's okay. You can listen. I interview a ton of people, and I love talking about other manufacturers. And listen, it's all about learning and educating because we work in a big space of technology. So, and for everyone listening, I do have family members who work for HPE, so I hear their strategies, and they love Cohesity. So it's listen, I'm agnostic when I'm talking.
Yeah,
I do
no,
not
I
work
know.
for Cisco, but yeah, I mean, it's and you kind of laugh at that. Obviously, I know my product line best, right? And I obviously understand the functionality, but it's just as I'm learning and listening and talking to you guys, and you guys are hearing this, I want you to learn and listen because this is how we become better educated in this field. Which there's a lot of products, right? But there's also leaders, and Cohesity is one of those leaders. So
Yeah, I mean, the customers, I mean, it's not easy for them, right? They're so used to
no,
doing
it's not.
XYZ for so long that it's worked for them that they're afraid to kind of branch out and they may or may not have tunnel vision, but they don't know what they don't know, right? And that's our job to educate them on what's what and
You're
what's
right.
been going on.
And to what Ray's, I think, articulating a little bit is the functionality, that there's a lot more functionality that you could do with software and you can have hardware, right? So I think what Ray's alluding to is there's more out there, and we're trying to give advice into maybe other ways you can think about how to run your enterprise and what to do and how to protect, right? So it's not, we know customers do the same thing year after year, but if there's a breach or something happens, why would you go back to that company? Maybe it is time to reassess and look at new strategies that have been developed, have been vetted, are working very well in the industry. Ray, what sets you apart? What sets you apart from your competition? Kind of go through that, a little bit, right? What is the power play? And I obviously, sounds like the, one piece we just learned is about maybe just how the company was built and what the methodology was to go into SaaS and the offering and the packaging. But what else stands, above your competition in the marketplace right now?
Yeah, one of the things, like, listen, like I said, security, our posture around security is heavily focused for our end users, and the way
Right.
these bad actors have evolved from the last like 10 years, we're evolving just as quickly as they are, of just trying to keep them out and protect the crown jewels. Being a software company, we can be as agile as we want, right? Whether it's and our the code releases can help support that, and our engineers on the back end are, I swear they're probably working 24/7, 365 of just
So,
staying ahead of those bad actors.
yeah. So Ray just brought up a very key thing. Software gets updated, and these bigger companies that you work with have, I would say, have the security layer built in. And I think that's a key piece, right? So if there is a breach or something happens, if your software that's hitting your network is not being updated, that is a easy access for
Mhm.
someone to get in, right? So when you work with sometimes smaller companies and they don't have, I guess, the same methodology for pushing out updates, we've seen breaches happen. I mean, Splunk was one of them that we saw, right? It was Splunk that, no, SolarWinds. Remember
Yeah.
the SolarWinds, right? That was a big deal. Like you would have thought that SolarWinds, as as easy to use as their SaaS product was, the methodology of security wasn't in their parameter, and they let other companies get breached for SolarWinds that everybody was using from a visibility standpoint. So as you're vetting technologies, just ask, well, how do you handle software upgrades? How does that happen? How, are you pushing them out? Are they automatic? Like, that's just a piece of the puzzle that I think everyone needs to ask about. And I'm glad you brought that up. Thank you.
Yeah, yeah. But some of the other things that kind of set us apart is our ability to secure your environment, anomaly detection, immutability, things like that. But also, and I mentioned this a few minutes ago, is our ability to quickly restore your environment safely. Also,
restore.
It's important, right? When you're protecting your crown jewels, backup is considered your last line of defense. And like I said, God forbid, knock on wood, something happens, you need to restore. How fast can you get up and running? What are your SLAs? How fast can an environment be down before you're losing millions of dollars? And things like that. Like things, you look at those stories
Right.
in the last 6 to 8 months, a year, or whatever it is, Colonial Pipeline, right, and Target and things like that. That sucks. It sucks.
Yeah, and they got in, and once they get in, that's where they want to get to, is the data. But when you think about restoring, tell me about platforms. If someone's listening and they're like, okay, well, what platforms would I use, for that restore method? Give me examples of the platforms that you would make sure that you had access, and that needs to be covered fast, because I would imagine that goes into pricing a little bit, that the recovery time is the key piece. But
yeah, I mean, everything is kind of built in with the best part about Cohesity, right? We try to make it as simple and as humanly possible, right? We do an in-depth sizing review of your environment. Okay, I have 50 terabytes SQL, 50 of, Oracle. I have, 200 VMware, things like that. We set your retention policies of what it needs to be. We build out what the throughput and what the sizing is going to be from a Cohesity standpoint, right? So the way our file system really works, and like kind of the secret sauce behind it, is that file system. There's no more like rehydrating data if something happens, because when you're backing up from the legacy perspective and you got to restore, you have those points and times, and they got to rehydrate to a full backup and point it to that server, right? With Cohesity, that's already happening on the back end, and when you're restoring, the process is much faster, and there's more throughput because of the hyperconvergence in that. So there's a lot of horsepower going through it.
And that's all done from a cloud perspective. That's not done on an on-prem perspective, or is it both?
It's either or, right? So if you do have backups in the cloud, the restore process is going to be a little longer than having something on-prem physically in your presence.
Right, because you're going from cloud to Cohesity, from cloud to the data. Am I wrong? Or data, I don't know where the connections or how it's going out to the internet and then back to you guys, but
yeah, I mean, ideally, a customer would have a production environment cluster replicating to their DR cluster, right?
Okay.
In another possible data center somewhere that's hopefully more than 100 miles away. And then if they want to archive their long-term stuff to a cloud of their choice, like an S3 bucket of something, have at it and go for it, right?
Okay.
But if something was, if they had a malicious attack and they needed to restore something, they could restore back to Cohesity. They can restore back to, the latest and greatest backup, or their SAN or their environment, and they can scan it within Cohesity using some of our applications that we do.
Wow.
And say these are safe backups that are safe that you can restore from.
That's amazing. And what kind of data would someone put in the cloud? Or I'm sorry, what are some of the data that they would, put to you guys? Like what
Everything.
kind of, like give me top 5. I don't know. I mean, obviously I know Active Directory, or, give me, backup records.
Yeah, so
I'm just naming a few that are coming to mind.
Everything that's important to the customer, right? Their tier 1 application, SAP HANA, that's a big one.
Got it.
Their VMware environment, that's a big one. Any kind of SQL workloads, Oracle workloads, those are all big. One of the things that we're having a lot of success with over the last 8 months is backing up M365.
Okay.
A lot of folks think that M365 is kind of already protected because it's in Microsoft's cloud. To a point, but it's not.
So I'm like, wait a minute. So tell me a little bit about that. Are you saying it's a shared, is it a shared environment in M65, M60, M365 that if they needed to get that, that data back, that would be hard because it's more of a shared tenant environment? Or is it because, and this is just me kind of thinking through of why, why do you need that extra layer of security, or why do you need that backup from there?
Well, so means the ways you can lose your data in M365, and we're talking about the whole suite, right? Whether it's OneDrive, Teams, and
Oh,
Exchange, obviously, right?
okay.
So if an executive deletes an email, which kind of happens every once in a while, and then after possibly a couple weeks they need it back, they're not going to have access to it, right? So M365 does have in their SLAs that they provide the applications, but they don't protect the data. It actually specifies in Microsoft's SLAs that they recommend a third party. They use
No
a third party
way.
backup tool. Yeah.
What? I didn't even know this. This is great information. First of all, I can't find any email ever, so I've just given up. Like I literally search for emails, and we're in Office 365, and it is just like I'm like, I can't get my email. I cannot find an email that I sent last week. It will send me emails. It will show me emails from like 5 months ago. And I'm like, I don't know. So the data goes somewhere. So to that point, I didn't know that. So that's probably a very small information in their contracts that people don't notice.
Yeah, and here's the best part too with Cohesity, right? So
Now, would you back up
the
everybody's
our customers
email? Or,
the simple
oh,
fact
I'm sorry.
how if you want to if you have call it 5,000 users and you want to back up only 1,000 of them, you can do that, right?
Yeah, that's what I
It's
was
all
thinking.
about
Like maybe my C-suite, right, or my VP and
right.
above, I would back up their emails, right? Or
Yeah.
even is it just emails, or it's all anything stored in SharePoint, or any direct communication? Wow,
Yeah.
Ray, look at that. What other nuances do you have? Keep going. That's a good one.
Well, let me one of the reasons the customers love Cohesity and the way we do it is, you have M365, which is a cloud-based
Yeah,
application, right? So you can back it up. But some folks don't want to bring it back on Prem, which we are not doing. We are not bringing the backup back on Prem. We are
I didn't
actually
think you were.
we're backing it up in our as a service offering, which is back-ended by AWS, which is a different cloud offering, which customers feel a little more peace of mind because God forbid anything does happen to Azure, they would still have access to something like that.
Ah, so they have dual backup to cloud providers, which makes more sense. I like that idea. I mean, listen, these networks, we hope these networks are built, right? And they're obviously there's knocks and socks, and everyone's looking at if there's breaches, but we see a ton of, we see a ton that goes across, I think, both of our desks, and it is a scary
Of course, yeah.
situation. What other nuances? Another one? Can you tell me another one like that one? That one's a good one.
um,
I'm really
well,
trying to challenge him here, guys. He's like, wait, what?
so one of your previous podcasts, you had someone from the cyber insurance, Anthony, I want to say his name
I
was.
did, yeah, and that was a cool. So I didn't even know that was a thing until Anthony came on the show. So if you got breached, you could get insurance, and they could actually they'll go in and do that assessment as well to see where your vulnerabilities are. Yes, I did have him on the show, and there was another one. I don't know if you heard about the fragmenting of data too. That was another conversation. I've had a lot of
Yeah.
security backup conversations.
No,
I'm really learning.
these are all good conversations to have. But when cyber insurance, right, is important, it's a an industry that's kind of stemmed up the last few years, and
Yes,
it's great. So when companies sign up for cyber insurance, that's great to protect themselves. But if, like Anthony said, they'll go in, they'll assess some things, and they'll write their policies up and say your premiums are XYZ because you don't have certain things in place with your environment today. Now things like Cohesity, a more modern approach for backup, providing that immutability, which is key, anomaly detection. Those will help lower your actual premiums from that. And the FBI released some guidelines against ransomware, and some of them, a few of the guidelines is one, have a backup in the cloud, right? And and then
yes, yes,
have a back and then have a backup that's basically not accessible to your network, completely off
correct,
network. It's
correct.
basically providing that air gap, right? Completely off. And Cohesity offers that again with our kind of, as a service offering. And that just helps have a third copy of your data that's completely separated from your network. And also it helps drive down those insurance premiums if you have that cyber insurance.
Right. And that's
But also,
funny. So Anthony was from Google. His background was his background was Microsoft as well, but that company was called Coalition. And I didn't even know, and I think I didn't know that insurance policy was out there, that, you can have that insurance policy. But to that point, they're giving you data and telling you where the footholds are. So I think, right, what you're saying is look at that, look at the findings, right? Like look at where there's openings. And then take that and maybe, you could develop that into an RFP, or you could, send it out and have companies like Cohesity respond to that from a data protection standpoint, because that's what they're looking at is how does a hacker get in? What are your openings, right? And what do you need to do to fix your environment?
yeah, exactly. I mean, I'm not sure. I didn't listen to the entire podcast. I'll admit that, but
Right. Make sure I'm going to test you on this one.
Some of these numbers that attackers get in, it takes like 280 days to find out, right? The average, I think it's the average number of files/records they attack is 25,000, right? And then 25,000 records times an average of $150 per record. That's, you're looking at $4 million. So that's
a lot of money. That's a lot more money than we have, right? Yes. But you're right. I think that so it's funny. My hat goes on to if someone's listening and the security team or the ISO team inside the corporation are running these validations, or they're running these assessments from the network team or from the data team, right? Or wherever that falls to in the corporation, or the IT team, whoever that falls to, get that information, like read it, see what it says, because it's probably got a lot of good information on there. I feel like, right, and we see this, people just work in silos, and I think there needs to be teams and a broader scale of, engineering staff and then executives to be strategizing and talking, because if people are making decisions by themselves, right, and they're getting good data, why not share that data? Hey, what do you think of this? Why not read it? Why not look at it, to your point? Because there's probably good information in that report that the networking team could use, or the backup team can use.
Exactly. And so, and like, we're having these conversations, right? Obviously, we like to start out with the infrastructure team and the backup team and, that NAS team and whatnot. But I would say 10 times out of 10, every time we're talking with a customer, we will speak with their CISO, right? And talk to the security folks and say, hey, this is what you're getting. This is what it's going to be. This is the management window of it. You are going to be protected. This is,
and
that's
speaking
crucial.
Of management, the management that you just referenced, is there APIs? Like if they use AWS's management dashboard, do you guys have APIs into those dashboards?
API first approach.
Perfect.
With,
because
with Cohesity.
We also hear that, right? We hear, I don't want another platform to manage. I need it easier. So that's another tie-in. If you have, a cloud and you move workloads to the cloud and your applications and your expansion and you're managing now, that is just another piece of a management. It goes back into, we're seeing a lot of that NOC-esque reference points now, right? We're seeing, hey, we have many screens and it's considered like their own mini NOC. That this could be part of your NOC.
Yeah. And listen, as cliche as it sounds, right, everyone has that single pane of glass, but it's crucial to have that single pane of glass when you're managing, whether you have a prod, a DR, you're managing some stuff in the cloud. When you have a single UI that manages all that, and you're not hunting and pecking through this target storage and this software, this backup software, and then this other cloud gateway, something like that, you're really driving efficiency for your IT team that manages, that environment, which is crucial.
So right, here's the next question. How would I engage you? How would I buy it? How do I deploy it? What's the length of time to deploy? I know there's a lot of questions
a lot
that I just
questions.
asked, but I want to know if,
I mean, Obviously, my contact information is in my LinkedIn profile. I'm sure you'll provide it here. Reach out to
Yeah,
me.
we're going to put it in the podcast, obviously. And, you could get to Ray or just honestly Google Cohesity Ray. I'm sure, I'm sure on LinkedIn it'll come up, but I'll tag you definitely on this episode. And if anyone wants to, get in touch with him. And Ray, like he said, he's been in the business. He's been with VARs. He has, background in infrastructure. He's background in cloud, right? So he is a person that could come in and just strategize. It doesn't have to be so much of a pitch. It could be just a chat. Hey, what are you doing today? Well, let's see, if this makes sense. Give me a report. Let my guys challenge us. I always love that challenge. Let my engineers deep dive into a strategy for you. I don't know. I love that. But keep going.
No,
Sorry
no,
for interrupting.
that's a great point. I mean, it's all about just being, transparent in what you're looking for, right? Because in today's world, everyone's looking for that extra layer of security. It's all about layering security, right? I mean, Cisco had that layer of security approach with ICE and Umbrella and things like that, right? It's the same going back to the data protection space, and just uncovering, the needed information and deploying Cohesity is not the 6 to 8 months from a legacy kind of backup solution that it used to be. It's fairly simple.
Because it's
Getting
software, it's
Yeah,
cloud, it runs. You can deploy it. You could do a POC really quickly. You can see what it can do. You can test it.
yeah.
So, yeah.
We
How would you? Oh, yeah. Go on.
Now I was going to say, like, for instance, we had a customer that we did a demo for M365 backup, and that was the beginning of the month, and they're like, "Oh, this is a great." They tested a few things, and then 2 weeks later, we're backing up 4,000 mailboxes in their environment, and that's just because
Amazing.
of PTO and scheduling times to get people up and running, right? So the deployment
Right.
process is simple.
Well, I love to hear that. What about buying? I mean, obviously, you could buy through the marketplace AWS. If you work with Cisco, you could buy through. We spoke about VARs, and VARs are
Yeah.
they're always at the table with us as Cisco as manufacturers. I don't know about HP if they sell direct or through a VAR, but VARs are there to kind of bring together multifaceted strategies with multifaceted teams and technology and kind of bringing it all together. They're more broad, where obviously manufacturers are obviously a little bit more siloed. And then you have Cohesity that works with many of the manufacturers and VARs. So just trying to explain our whole ecosystem, which is quite large.
Yeah, the ecosystem is large, and the VARs are crucial to our business, right? Because I can't go direct from for a customer,
Okay,
and even
got
with
it.
the marketplace, right? It would still have to go through a VAR of some sort.
Oh, really? Amazon doesn't sell direct either. Then I didn't know that.
Yeah, the way we would, yeah, basically, yep.
Okay, interesting, interesting. Um, what about could they do a POC? How long do you recommend a proof of concept for?
Yeah, so we have a couple different ways of POCs, right? We have test labs that folks can join. We do have some trials that they can sign up for an as a service type of offering. From a POC perspective, right? It's all about, understanding exactly what they're looking to accomplish. Then we kind of, measure out a success criteria of what they're trying to see, what they're backing up, or what they're doing in the actual POC itself. And trying to we don't need that much time to see the success of, like, backing up their Oracle or SQL and restoring that in the matter of minutes, like a couple weeks, if that. But customers, we understand that you have other things to do, so it usually
We
roughly
do
30
understand
days,
that.
right? Yeah. Like,
We do get
I
that.
know I'm not the most important person in someone's environment when I'm trying to show the value of Cohesity, right? We know there's the day-to-day stuff.
So, right, we have a few minutes left. Just talk to us. Why do you love information technology? Why do you work in this sector?
It's
Give us,
funny.
yeah. What
It's
drives you?
Yeah, I mean, listen, when you work for a company that does provide true value in helping protect against, the ransomware and the bad actors of the world, it's kind of cool. Like this, your phone is like everything these days, and you can make basically work out of your phone, in technology and doing all that stuff. And like I said, IT I think is important for everyone, just as it goes and evolves into what it's going to be. Like, you hear those stories of ransomware, and I think last year so a hospital system was attacked, and someone got injured because they had to get transferred out of one thing. You don't want that. That's just not bad. Like keeping the bad actors away and helping customers and make their life a lot more efficient and just giving people peace of mind, right? Like giving them their weekends back. That's crucial. Like I have 4 kids, right? The last thing I want to do is have work on the nights and weekends and not see them grow up.
Right, right. And that's a good point. This industry is we are solving problems. We love to put technology out there that does solve problems. And I think to you and I is like we actually see the end result of stuff we either deployed or we brought to the table. And we're there for customers to walk them through these strategies and help them see, hey, this is really beneficial. So maybe it's our engineering minds that we like to solve puzzles all the time. But it is true. It's not. I think what we like about information technology is it is a consultative approach to solving business problems, and there's always outcomes, right? We see outcomes, we see success, and I think that's fun and exciting because you're also talking to very educated people, but you have to educate on the technology. Listen, not every customer knows everything. You have to educate. So I think that's kind of part of our challenge too, is we're trying to just educate and give you as much advice as you can and take it, right? So getting to Ray's point, he comes with a wealth of knowledge and pick his brain. Like it doesn't have to be such a pitch all the time. It could just be a consultative conversation.
Yeah, I mean, I love talking about the technology, right? And some of just like the use cases of what we're providing for folks and seeing that, right? Just driving efficiency, security, peace of mind. That's crucial.
Yeah, yeah. Well, we don't want anyone working on the weekends. We don't want anyone worrying about their backup or, the most precious data in their environment, right? And where do you put that? And how does that happen? And what should you protect? So hopefully everyone listening today, we gave you a little bit of insight into Cohesity. As Ray said, you could find him on LinkedIn. Again, we are trying to simplify conversations about technology, give you insight into our view, and then obviously take that knowledge and use it, listen to the podcast. Hopefully we can educate more about security and breaches and what really happened. But I love the Microsoft chat. I love the software. I love the scale of Cohesity.